Shy waitress grabbed a stranger's hand to escape her ex, not knowing he was the Millionaire CEO. Lila Hayes felt him before she saw him, that familiar presence that made her skin crawl and her stomach drop. She was carrying a tray of plates to table 7, focused on not spilling anything during the dinner rush, when she heard his voice. "Hey, Lila. Long time no see." Dylan, her ex-boyfriend, stood by the diner's entrance, hands in his jacket pockets, that smile on his face that used to charm her, but now only terrified her. The same smile he'd worn when he'd told her she wasn't smart enough for college. The same smile that had been on his face the day she finally found the courage to leave. 6 months. She'd managed to avoid him for 6 months. How did he find her? Lila's hands trembled, making the plates rattle on her tray. She forced herself to keep walking, delivering the food to her customers with a smile that felt like it might crack her face. "Enjoy your meal," she managed, her voice sounding distant to her own ears. When she turned back toward the kitchen, Dylan had moved closer. He was standing near the counter now, blocking her path. The diner was crowded with the evening rush. Families eating burgers and fries, couples sharing milkshakes, truck drivers grabbing coffee before hitting the road again. No one was paying attention to the scared waitress and her ex-boyfriend having a quiet confrontation. "We need to talk," Dylan said as she approached, his voice low. "No, we don't," Lila replied, trying to step around him. His hand shot out, gripping her upper arm. Not hard enough to hurt, just firm enough to stop her movement, just controlling enough to remind her of all the times before. "Don't walk away from me, Lila. You've been avoiding me for months, ignoring my calls, my texts. That's disrespectful." "Let go of me, Dylan," Lila said quietly, aware that causing a scene would get her fired. Her manager, Mr. Peterson, didn't tolerate drama. "I just want to talk." Dylan's grip tightened slightly. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. After everything we had together, you owe me that much." Lila's heart was racing, her mouth felt dry. The familiar panic was rising in her chest, the same feeling that had consumed her during the last months of their relationship. The feeling of being trapped, of having no control, of being so small and powerless. Her eyes darted around the diner, looking for help, but everyone was absorbed in their meals, their conversations, their own lives. Jenny, her co-worker, was busy taking orders at the far end of the restaurant. Mr. Peterson was in the back office doing paperwork. No one saw. No one ever saw. Then her gaze landed on him. A man sitting alone in the corner booth, the one she'd seated 20 minutes ago. He was maybe in his early 30s, wearing a navy suit that looked expensive even from a distance. Dark hair, strong features, an air of quiet confidence. He'd been reading something on his tablet while waiting for his food, but now he was watching her and Dylan. His dark eyes were sharp, assessing, and there was something in his expression that looked like concern. Their eyes met across the diner. Lila made a decision. It was reckless. It was desperate. But desperation makes you brave in ways you never planned. She pulled away from Dylan's grip and walked quickly toward the corner booth. The man in the navy suit looked up as she approached, his expression shifting from concern to curiosity. Lila didn't give herself time to think. She slid into the booth across from him and reached across the table, taking his hand in both of hers. His hand was warm, solid, steady. Everything Dylan's touch wasn't. "Please," Lila whispered, her voice shaking. "Please, just play along. My ex is here and he won't leave me alone. I just need him to think, to believe." She couldn't finish the sentence, but the stranger's eyes shifted from her face to somewhere behind her, to Dylan, who had followed her across the diner. The stranger's expression changed. The concern sharpened into something more focused, more protective. Then he smiled. It was a warm smile, the kind that reached his eyes and transformed his entire face. "Hey, sweetheart," he said, his voice carrying just enough to be heard by Dylan standing a few feet away. "I was wondering where you went." He stood smoothly, keeping her hand in his, and stepped out of the booth. He was tall, probably 6'1", with broad shoulders and an athletic build beneath that expensive suit. He moved to stand beside Lila, his presence solid and reassuring. One arm came around her shoulders, protective but not possessive, asking permission even as he provided shelter. Lila leaned into him, playing along, grateful beyond words. Dylan stood 3 feet away, his expression cycling through confusion, anger, and calculation. "Who's this?" Dylan demanded, looking between them. "I'm sorry, who are you?" the stranger replied, his tone polite but with an edge of steel underneath. "I'm her boyfriend," Dylan said. "Ex-boyfriend," Lila corrected, finding her voice. "We broke up 6 months ago, Dylan. You need to accept that." "We took a break," Dylan countered. "That's not the same thing as breaking up. We can work this out, Lila. We always do." "There's nothing to work out," the stranger said calmly. "The lady seems pretty clear about not wanting to talk to you. I think it's time you left." Dylan's eyes narrowed, taking in the expensive suit, the confident stance, the watch on the stranger's wrist that probably cost more than Dylan made in 3 months. "And you are," Dylan challenged. "Someone who respects when a woman says no," the stranger replied evenly. "Now, I'm going to ask you politely to leave. If you don't, I'll ask the manager to escort you out. Your choice." The 2 men stared at each other. Lila could feel the tension thick enough to cut. Dylan's jaw clenched, his hands curling into fists at his sides. For a moment, she thought he might actually try to fight. But Dylan had always been a coward underneath the bravado. He only picked fights he knew he could win. And this man, this stranger, who'd wrapped himself around Lila like a shield, didn't look like someone Dylan could intimidate. "This isn't over, Lila," Dylan said finally, taking a step back. "You'll come back. You always need me. You can't survive without me." "Watch me," Lila said, surprised by the strength in her own voice. Dylan gave them both one more furious look before turning and stalking out of the diner. The bell above the door chimed as he left. The moment he was gone, Lila's legs went weak. She would have stumbled if the stranger hadn't been holding her up. "Whoa, easy," he said gently, guiding her back into the booth. "Sit down. Breathe." Lila sank onto the vinyl seat, her whole body shaking now that the adrenaline was draining away. The stranger slid into the booth across from her, his expression concerned. "Are you okay? Did he hurt you?" "No," Lila managed, though her voice was trembling. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have dragged you into this. That was completely inappropriate. I panicked. He wouldn't leave, and no one was paying attention, and I saw you watching, and "Hey," the stranger interrupted gently. "You don't have to apologize. You did what you needed to do to feel safe. That's not something to be sorry for." Lila looked up at him, really looked at him for the first time. He had kind eyes, dark brown, almost black, but warm. There were small lines at the corners that suggested he smiled often. His face was handsome in a refined way, like he'd grown into his features with maturity rather than relying on youthful looks. "Thank you," Lila whispered, "for playing along, for helping me. You didn't have to do that." "Of course I did," he said simply. "That guy was harassing you. Anyone would have helped." "You'd be surprised," Lila said quietly. "Most people just look away. They don't want to get involved." Something flickered in the stranger's eyes. Understanding, maybe, or recognition. "Well, I'm not most people," he said. He extended his hand across the table in a formal gesture. "I'm Ethan. Ethan Cole." Lila shook his hand, noticing again how warm and solid it felt. How different from Dylan's grip. "Lila Hayes. And again, I'm really sorry for—" "Stop apologizing," Ethan said with a slight smile. "You're starting to make me think you're actually sorry for protecting yourself, and that would be concerning." Despite everything, Lila felt a small smile tug at her lips. I've never done anything like that before. Grabbed a stranger and dragged them into my mess." "Your ex is not your mess," Ethan corrected firmly. "He's his own mess. You're just trying to move on with your life." The compassion in his voice made Lila's eyes sting with unexpected tears. "I am," she said quietly. "Trying to move on. He just won't let me." "How long has he been bothering you?" Lila hesitated, but something about Ethan made her want to be honest. "We dated for 2 years. I left 6 months ago. He's been trying to contact me ever since. Calls, texts, showing up at places he thinks I might be. I moved across town, changed my number, but he still finds me somehow. This is the first time he's found where I work." Ethan's expression darkened. "That's stalking, Lila. You know that, right? That's not normal breakup behavior." "I know," Lila said, "but I can't afford a lawyer for a restraining order, and Dylan's smart. He never does anything that would look bad on paper. It's always just wanting to talk or checking in. Nothing I could prove was threatening." "Except he grabbed you just now," Ethan pointed out. "I saw that from here." "It wasn't hard enough to leave a mark," Lila said automatically. Then she heard her own words and closed her eyes. That was abused person logic, the kind of thinking that had kept her trapped for so long. If it doesn't leave a mark, it doesn't count. If he doesn't yell, it's not abuse. If he says he loves you, you must be overreacting. "Hey," Ethan's voice brought her back. "You don't have to minimize it. A grab is a grab. Control is control. You felt threatened enough to ask a stranger for help. That tells me everything I need to know about how serious this is." Lila opened her eyes and found Ethan watching her with such genuine concern that it made her chest tight. When was the last time someone had looked at her like she mattered? Like her fear was valid? Like she deserved to be safe? Drop a comment right now and tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because this love story is going to touch your heart in ways you won't expect. Let's continue. Before Lila could respond, Jenny appeared at their table, her eyes wide. "Lila, are you okay? I saw Dylan leave. Was he bothering you again?" "Again?" Ethan picked up on the word immediately. "He's been here before?" Jenny asked, looking between them in confusion. "No, not here," Lila said quickly. "Other places. Jenny, this is Ethan. He helped me just now." Jenny's eyes went even wider as she took in Ethan, the expensive suit, the confident presence, the protective way he was positioned in the booth, like he was ready to jump up if needed. "Thank you," Jenny said sincerely. "Dylan's bad news. Lila's too nice to say it, but that guy's been stalking her for months." "Jenny," Lila protested weakly. "It's true," Jenny said firmly. Then she looked at Ethan more closely, and her expression changed. Recognition flickered across her face, followed by shock. "Oh my God," she breathed. You're Ethan Cole. Like the Ethan Cole. From Cole Luxury Hotels." Lila's head snapped toward Ethan. "What?" Ethan sighed softly, but he didn't look angry at being recognized, just resigned. "Guilty," he said. "You own the hotel chain?" Lila asked, her mind reeling. The luxury hotel on the other side of town was famous. 5 stars, celebrity guests, impossibly expensive. She'd walked past it a few times, never dreaming she'd ever set foot inside. "Among other properties, yes," Ethan confirmed. "But right now, I'm just a guy having dinner at a diner and helping out when needed." Jenny looked like she might faint. Oh my God, a billionaire is in our diner. Mr. Peterson is going to lose his mind. Can I get you anything? Another coffee? Dessert? Anything at all?" "Jenny," Lila said, mortified. "He's a customer, not a celebrity." "He's kind of both," Jenny said, still staring. Ethan smiled, and it was genuine and warm, despite the awkward situation. "Another coffee would be great, actually. And maybe some pie if you have it. Apple, if possible." "We have the best apple pie in the city," Jenny assured him. "I'll be right back." She hurried off, leaving Lila and Ethan alone again. Lila covered her face with her hands. "I can't believe I grabbed a hotel mogul's hand and dragged him into my drama. I thought this couldn't get more embarrassing, but apparently it can." "Why is it embarrassing?" Ethan asked. Lila lowered her hands. "Because you're you, and I'm just a waitress who can't even escape her ex-boyfriend without causing a scene." "First," Ethan said, holding up a finger, "being a waitress is honest work. Don't say just like it diminishes your worth. Second, you didn't cause that scene. Your ex did. And third, my bank account doesn't make me more important than you. It just means I had some luck and made some good business decisions." "Some luck?" Lila repeated incredulously. "Jenny said you're a billionaire." Ethan shrugged. Money's just a number. It doesn't tell you who a person really is. I've met plenty of wealthy people who were terrible humans, and I've met plenty of people working minimum wage who were the kindest souls you'd ever encounter. Character isn't determined by income. Lila studied him, looking for signs of insincerity, but Ethan's expression was open, honest. He really believed what he was saying. "Why are you eating at a diner?" Lila asked suddenly. "If you own luxury hotels, why come here?" Ethan's smile turned a bit self-deprecating. "Because luxury hotels serve food that looks like art, but leaves you hungry. Because I grew up eating at places like this with my mom before she died. Because sometimes you want a burger and fries, not foam and microgreens." The mention of his mother made Ethan's expression shift just for a moment. Sadness flickered across his face before he schooled it back to neutral. "I'm sorry," Lila said softly. "About your mom. Thank you. It was a long time ago, but you never really stop missing them, do you?" Lila thought of her own parents, alive but distant after they'd disowned her for dating Dylan in the first place. They'd said he was bad news. She hadn't listened. Now she was too ashamed to reach out and admit they'd been right. "No," she agreed quietly. "You don't." Jenny returned with coffee and an enormous slice of apple pie, extra ice cream on the side. "On the house," she announced. "Mr. Peterson's orders. He saw you were still here and wanted to say thank you for, well, for everything." Ethan pulled out his wallet. "I appreciate that, but I'd like to pay for my meal, and for Lila's time. I know she's supposed to be working, and I've been keeping her from her tables." He placed a $100 bill on the table. Jenny's eyes went wide. "Sir, your meal was only $15. "Then keep the change," Ethan said. "Consider it a tip for excellent service and for looking out for your co-worker." Jenny looked at the money, then at Lila, then back at Ethan. "Are you sure?" "Completely." After Jenny left with the money, nearly floating with excitement, Lila shook her head. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to," Ethan said simply. He took a bite of pie and made an appreciative sound. "Okay, this is actually good." Jenny wasn't lying about the best pie in the city. Lila found herself smiling despite the emotional exhaustion. "We make it here every morning. The crust is Mr. Peterson's grandmother's recipe." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment while Ethan ate his pie. Lila should have gotten back to work, but her legs still felt shaky, and somehow, sitting across from this unexpected stranger felt like the safest place in the world. "Can I ask you something?" Ethan said eventually. "Sure." "Why did you stay with him?" "Your ex." "I'm not judging," he added quickly. "I'm just trying to understand." Lila took a deep breath. It was a question she'd asked herself 1,000 times. At first, Dylan was amazing. Charming, attentive, made me feel special. Then gradually, things changed. He started making comments about my appearance, my intelligence, my friends. Convinced me I was lucky he put up with me. By the time I realized what was happening, I'd already lost so much of myself that I didn't know how to leave. She looked down at her hands, fidgeting with her apron. He never hit me. He just controlled everything. Where I went, who I talked to, what I wore. He made me feel like I couldn't survive without him, and I believed it. Until one day, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. That's when I knew I had to go. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "That took incredible courage," he said finally. "Leaving is always the hardest part." "You sound like you know something about it," Lila observed. "Not personally," Ethan admitted, "but I've seen it. A friend's sister was in a situation like yours. It took her years to leave, and even longer to believe she deserved better. Watching her struggle taught me that control doesn't always look like violence. Sometimes it's subtler, more insidious." "Exactly," Lila said, grateful that he understood. "Everyone thinks if you're not being hit, it's not abuse. But emotional manipulation can be just as damaging. Maybe more, because there's no evidence, no proof. Just you feeling crazy and wondering if you're overreacting." "You weren't overreacting," Ethan said firmly. And you're not crazy. You're someone who got out of a bad situation and is trying to rebuild. That makes you strong, not weak. Lila felt tears prick her eyes again. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm barely holding it together most days. Holding it together when everything feels like it's falling apart, Ethan said gently. That's the definition of strength. Before Lila could respond, her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She pulled it out, and her stomach dropped. 12 missed calls from Dylan's number. 3 text messages. She didn't want to read them, but she couldn't help herself. You can't hide from me. That guy at the diner won't always be around. We're not done, Lila. We'll never be done. Her hands started shaking again. Ethan noticed immediately. What is it? Lila showed him the phone. Ethan's expression went dark, his jaw clenching. That's harassment. That's evidence. Lila, you need to go to the police. And tell them what? Lila said bitterly. That my ex is texting me? They'll say it's a domestic issue and tell me to handle it myself. Not if you file a restraining order. Not if you have documentation of stalking behavior. I can't afford a lawyer, Lila said. I can barely afford rent. Ethan pulled a business card from his wallet and slid it across the table. Then let me help. Lila looked at the card. Embossed lettering. Ethan Cole, CEO, Cole Luxury Hotels. A phone number. An email address. I can't accept charity, Lila said quietly. It's not charity, Ethan replied. It's one person who has resources helping another person who needs them. I have lawyers on retainer who handle this kind of thing. It wouldn't cost me anything extra to have them help you. Why would you do that? Lila asked. You don't even know me. Ethan's expression softened. I know enough. I know you're working hard to support yourself. I know you had the courage to leave a bad relationship. I know you asked for help when you needed it. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. He tapped the business card. My personal cell is on the back. If Dylan contacts you again, call me. Day or night doesn't matter. Don't face this alone, Lila. Lila picked up the card, turning it over to see the handwritten number on the back. I don't understand why you're being so kind to me. Maybe I believe in helping people who deserve help, Ethan said. Or maybe I see someone who reminds me of my mother, strong, independent, trying to make it on her own despite obstacles. He finished his pie and stood. I should let you get back to work. Thank you for the pie, and for the company. I should be thanking you, Lila said, standing as well. You saved me tonight. We saved each other, Ethan corrected gently. You gave me an excuse to be useful, and I gave you a safe space for a few minutes. That's what people do for each other. He started to leave, then paused. Lila, keep that card. Use it if you need it. And please be careful. Men like Dylan don't give up easily. I know, Lila said quietly. After Ethan left, Lila stood by the booth for a long moment, holding his business card. The dinner rush was winding down. Mr. Peterson emerged from his office and gave her a kind nod. Jenny appeared at her elbow. Girl, do you know who that was? You told me, Lila said. Ethan Cole. Not just Ethan Cole, Jenny said excitedly. The Ethan Cole. He's like 32, built his business from one hotel to a chain of luxury properties worth over $1 billion and notoriously private. He never does interviews, barely goes to social events, and apparently just ate pie in our diner like a normal person. He seemed pretty normal to me, Lila said. Because you didn't recognize him, Jenny pointed out. I bet that's exactly why he liked talking to you. You treated him like a person, not a celebrity. Lila looked at the card in her hand. He gave me his personal number, told me to call if Dylan bothers me again. Jenny's expression turned serious. Lila, I know you don't like accepting help, but maybe this time you should. Dylan's getting worse, you need protection, and this guy seems genuinely willing to provide it. I can't just call a billionaire CEO every time my ex sends me a text, Lila protested. Why not? Jenny challenged. He offered. That means he wants you to. Don't let your pride stop you from being safe. The rest of Lila's shift passed in a blur. She kept expecting Dylan to come back, But he didn't. Every time the door chimed, her heart jumped. Every time a customer approached the counter, she tensed. But Dylan didn't return. When her shift ended at 11, Mr. Peterson walked her to her car. "Jenny told me what happened," he said gruffly. "If that guy comes back, you tell me immediately. I'll call the cops. I don't tolerate that kind of behavior in my establishment." "Thank you, Mr. Peterson," Lila said, genuinely grateful. She drove home to her small apartment on the edge of town, checking her rearview mirror constantly. Was Dylan following her? Was he waiting somewhere, watching? By the time she pulled into her apartment complex, she was exhausted and paranoid. Inside her modest one-bedroom apartment, Lila locked the door, checked all the windows, and finally allowed herself to breathe. She set Ethan's business card on her small kitchen table and stared at it. Ethan Cole, a billionaire who'd protected her without hesitation, who'd listened to her story without judgment, who'd offered help without expecting anything in return. Men like that didn't exist in her world, or at least she'd never met one before. Her phone buzzed, another text from Dylan. "I saw your car at your apartment. Good to know where you live now." Lila's blood went cold. He knew where she lived. He'd followed her home. Her hands shaking, she picked up Ethan's card and dialed the number on the back. It rang twice before he answered. "Lila, are you okay?" The concern in his voice, the immediate recognition, made her throat tight. "He followed me home," she said, her voice breaking. "Dylan, he knows where I live now. He just texted me." "I'm coming over," Ethan said immediately. "Text me your address." "You don't have to—" "Address, Lila. Now." Something in his tone told her not to argue. She sent her address. "I'll be there in 15 minutes, Ethan said. "Lock your doors. Don't open them for anyone except me. If you see him, call 911 immediately." "Okay," Lila whispered. "I'm scared." "I know," Ethan said gently. "But you're not alone anymore. Hold on, I'm coming." Lila sat on her couch, lights off, curtains drawn, watching the parking lot through a crack in the blinds. 13 minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up. Ethan got out, dressed in jeans and a sweater now, looking around the parking lot with sharp awareness. Lila opened her door before he could knock. "Hey," Ethan said softly. "Can I come in?" Lila nodded, stepping aside. Ethan entered, his presence immediately making the small space feel safer. He did a quick walk through her apartment, checking windows and locks. "Your bedroom window doesn't lock properly," he noted. "I know," Lila said. "Maintenance has been meaning to fix it for 3 months." "I'll have someone here tomorrow to fix it," Ethan said. "Tonight, you're not staying here alone." "What?" Lila looked at him in confusion. "You have 2 options," Ethan said calmly. "Either I stay here on your couch tonight, or you come to my place where I know security is solid. Your choice. But you're not staying here alone knowing Dylan was watching your building." Lila wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could handle this herself, but the fear was overwhelming, and Ethan's steady presence was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. "The couch," she decided. "I can't just leave my apartment." "Fair enough," Ethan said. He pulled out his phone and made a quick call. "Marcus, it's Ethan. I need you to send someone to watch an apartment building tonight. No personal favor. I'll send you the address, thanks." He hung up and looked at Lila. "My head of security is sending someone to watch your building overnight. If Dylan comes back, they'll intervene." "Ethan, this is too much," Lila protested. "It's necessary," he corrected. "And it's not too much. What's too much is you being terrified in your own home." Lila felt tears spill over. The kindness, the protection, the sheer relief of not being alone, it was overwhelming. Ethan moved closer, his expression concerned. "Hey, it's okay. You're safe now." "Why are you doing this?" Lila asked through her tears. "You don't owe me anything. We just met." Ethan's expression was gentle. "Because someone should have done this for you months ago. Because you deserve to feel safe. Because I can help, and it costs me nothing to do so." He guided her to sit on the couch. "And maybe because I like you, Lila Hayes. You're brave and kind and stronger than you realize. I'd like to be your friend if you'll let me." Lila looked up at him through her tears. "Friends?" "To start," Ethan said with a small smile. One step at a time. No pressure. Just two people looking out for each other. For the first time in 6 months, Lila felt something besides fear. She felt hope. Lila woke to the smell of coffee. For a disoriented moment, she couldn't remember where she was or why her apartment smelled different. Then the memories of last night came flooding back. Dylan at the diner, grabbing Ethan's hand, the texts, the fear, Ethan staying over. She sat up on her bed, still fully clothed in yesterday's work uniform, and padded quietly to the living room. Ethan was on the couch, reading something on his phone with a coffee mug in his other hand. He'd removed his shoes but was otherwise fully dressed, a blanket folded neatly beside him. He looked up as she entered. "Good morning. I hope you don't mind. I made coffee. Your machine was calling to me." "You didn't have to stay all night," Lila said softly. "I wanted to," Ethan replied simply. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I expected," Lila admitted. "Knowing someone was here, it helped." Ethan stood, stretching slightly. "Good. And before you worry, nothing happened overnight. My security guy checked in around 3. No sign of your ex." The building was quiet. Lila moved to the kitchen, pouring herself coffee. "I don't know how to thank you for all this." "You don't need to thank me," Ethan said, following her, "but we do need to talk about next steps. Dylan's behavior is escalating. The texts following you home, that's stalking, Lila. It's time to involve the police." Lila's hands tightened around her mug. "I've tried before. They said without proof of physical harm or explicit threats, there's not much they can do." "Then we'll give them proof," Ethan said. "Documentation, witnesses, a pattern of behavior. I meant what I said about my lawyers. Will you let me help you file for a restraining order?" Lila looked at this man who'd appeared in her life less than 12 hours ago and was already fighting for her safety. "Why are you doing this?" she asked again. "I keep asking, but I don't understand." "We're strangers." Ethan set down his coffee and moved closer, but not close enough to crowd her. "My mother was in a bad relationship before she met my father. Her boyfriend at the time was controlling, manipulative. Sound familiar?" Lila nodded slowly. "She had no one to help her leave. No resources, no support system. She told me once that the loneliest feeling in the world was being trapped and believing no one cared enough to help." Ethan's voice was soft but intense. "She eventually got out on her own, but it took years and cost her so much. When she told me that story, I promised myself that if I ever had the chance to be the help someone needed, I wouldn't hesitate." He met Lila's eyes. "So that's why. Because my mother deserved help and didn't get it. Because you deserve help and I can give it. It's that simple." Lila felt tears threatening again. "Nothing about you is simple, Ethan Cole." He smiled. "Fair point. But my intentions are. Say yes to the lawyers, Lila. Let's make sure Dylan can't get near you again." After a long moment, Lila nodded. "Okay, yes, let's do it." Relief flooded Ethan's face. "Good. I'll set up a meeting for tomorrow. For now, do you have work today?" "This afternoon, 2 to 10. "Then let me take you to breakfast," Ethan suggested. "Somewhere far from this neighborhood. Somewhere Dylan won't think to look." Lila glanced down at her wrinkled uniform. "I need to change first." "Take your time," Ethan said. "I'll wait." 20 minutes later, dressed in jeans and a simple sweater, Lila climbed into Ethan's car. It was nice, a black sedan that screamed expensive but wasn't ostentatious. "Where are we going?" Lila asked as Ethan pulled out of her complex. "A little place downtown. Best pancakes in the city and quiet enough to actually talk." The restaurant was exactly as Ethan described, a cozy spot with worn wooden tables and the smell of maple syrup in the air. They settled into a corner booth, and Lila found herself relaxing for the first time in days. "Tell me about yourself," Ethan said after they'd ordered. "Beyond the waitress thing, what do you dream about? What makes Lila Hayes happy?" Lila stirred cream into her coffee, considering. "I used to dream about a lot of things. Before Dylan, I wanted to study hospitality management. I thought maybe I could run a hotel someday or manage event planning. I liked the idea of creating experiences that made people happy. Why hospitality? Ethan asked, genuinely interested. My grandmother ran a bed and breakfast when I was growing up. I spent summers there watching her make guests feel welcome. She had this gift for making people feel like they mattered, like they belonged. I wanted to do that too. Lila's voice grew quieter. But Dylan said it was a waste of time, that I wasn't smart enough for college, that I should focus on being a good girlfriend instead of chasing impossible dreams. Eventually, I started to believe him. Ethan's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed gentle. He was wrong. You know that, right? Logically, yes, Lila said, but knowing something and believing it are different things. I spent 2 years being told I was incapable. Those words stick. Then we'll unstick them, Ethan said firmly. Starting today, what if I told you those dreams aren't impossible? I'd say you're being kind, but unrealistic, Lila replied. I'm 26 with no degree, working paycheck to paycheck. Dreams are expensive. Dreams are investments, Ethan corrected, and investments can be managed. What if you went back to school, part-time, online classes? What if someone believed in your potential enough to help make it happen? Lila looked at him sharply. Don't offer to pay for my education or whatever you're thinking. I can't accept that. Why not? Because I don't want to owe you anything. I don't want to be someone's charity case. Ethan leaned back, studying her. What if it wasn't charity? What if it was a scholarship through my company? We have a program for employees and community members pursuing hospitality careers. You'd apply like anyone else, and if you qualified, which you would, you'd receive funding. No strings attached. Lila wanted to believe it could be that simple. I don't work for your company. Yet, Ethan said with a slight smile. But you could. We're always looking for good people, and before you protest, I'm not offering you a fake job. I'm saying, if you're interested in hospitality, there are legitimate paths forward. You don't have to stay stuck. Their food arrived, and they ate in thoughtful silence for a while. Lila's mind was spinning with possibilities she'd locked away years ago. Can I ask you something? Lila said eventually. Anything. Why aren't you married? Or in a relationship? You're successful, kind, attractive. I can't imagine people aren't interested. Ethan's expression turned rueful. People are interested in Ethan Cole, the billionaire. Not many are interested in just Ethan. Most relationships I've had ended when I realized they cared more about what I have than who I am. That must be lonely, Lila said softly. It is, Ethan admitted. I've built this successful business, achieved everything I set out to do professionally, but personal connections? Those are harder. You can't buy genuine affection. You can't negotiate real intimacy. And when you have money, you never quite trust if someone wants you or your resources. I grabbed your hand last night without any idea who you were, Lila pointed out. Exactly, Ethan said, his eyes warm. You saw me as a person who could help, not a checkbook or a status symbol. Do you know how refreshing that is? Lila felt heat rise to her cheeks. I feel like I should apologize for that again. Don't you dare, Ethan said. That moment was real, genuine. No pretense, no agenda. Just two humans connecting in a moment of need. I haven't experienced that in longer than I care to admit. They finished breakfast, and Ethan drove Lila home. At her apartment door, he hesitated. Can I see you again? Not as protector and protected, just as two people getting to know each other. Lila's heart did something complicated in her chest. Like a date? If you're comfortable with that term, Ethan said. Or we can call it coffee between friends. Whatever feels right to you. Lila thought about Dylan's control, his jealousy, his insistence that she belonged to him. Then she looked at Ethan, who was asking permission, offering choices, respecting her autonomy. Coffee between friends sounds nice, she said, for now. Ethan's smile could have lit up the city. Friday, your day off. How do you know Friday is my day off? I asked Jenny, Ethan admitted. Too creepy. Despite everything, Lila laughed. A little, but also kind of sweet. Over the next 2 weeks, Ethan became a constant presence in Lila's life. He'd text good morning messages and check in during her shifts. He'd show up at the diner for coffee, always sitting in her section, always leaving generous tips that he'd insist were for Jenny to split with the staff. They met for coffee 3 times that first week. By the second week, they were having lunch together on Lila's breaks. Ethan told her about building his business from one struggling hotel to a luxury chain, about the failures along the way, the risks that paid off, the lessons learned. Lila told him about her childhood, her grandmother's bed and breakfast, her dreams that had seemed so possible before Dylan. She told him about the slow erosion of her confidence, the way control could look like love if you weren't careful. And Ethan listened. Really listened, not planning his response or checking his phone. Just present, attentive, seeing her. The restraining order was filed with the help of Ethan's lawyers. Dylan was served papers at his apartment. For a few days, Lila held her breath, waiting for retaliation, but Dylan went quiet. No calls, no texts, no appearances at the diner. Maybe it worked, Jenny said hopefully. Maybe he finally got the message. Lila wanted to believe it, but she knew Dylan. He didn't give up. He just changed tactics. On a Friday evening, 3 weeks after that first night at the diner, Ethan picked Lila up in his car. "Where are we going?" she asked. He'd been secretive about tonight's plans. "You'll see," Ethan said with a mysterious smile. They drove to the luxury hotel Ethan owned, pulling up to the valet entrance. Lila's eyes widened. "Ethan, I can't afford to eat here." "Good thing I can," Ethan said, coming around to open her door. "And before you protest, this is my treat, no arguments." Lila stepped out, feeling underdressed in her simple blue dress, despite Ethan's reassurance that she looked beautiful. The hotel was stunning, all marble and crystal, soft lighting and elegant furnishings. Staff greeted Ethan by name, respectful but warm. He clearly treated his employees well. They took an elevator to the rooftop restaurant, where floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The maitre d' led them to a private table near the windows, away from other diners. "I wanted somewhere we could talk without interruption," Ethan explained, "and I wanted to show you what you could be part of if you pursue your hospitality dreams." Lila looked around, taking in the impeccable service, the attention to detail, the way everything flowed seamlessly. "It's incredible," she breathed. "You built this." "I built the business," Ethan corrected. "But people like you, people who genuinely care about making others feel welcome, they make it come alive." Dinner was perfect. Multiple courses, each more delicious than the last. Ethan explained the hospitality industry, the challenges and rewards, the skills that mattered most. "It's not about fancy degrees," he said. "It's about emotional intelligence, reading people, anticipating needs, creating experiences. You already do that at the diner. This is just a larger scale." After dinner, Ethan led her to the hotel gardens, a rooftop space with trees and flowers and soft lighting. They walked slowly, the city lights twinkling below them. "I need to tell you something," Ethan said, stopping by a fountain. Lila's heart rate picked up. "Okay." Ethan turned to face her, his expression serious but soft. "This past 3 weeks with you, they've been the best weeks I've had in years, maybe ever. Getting to know you, learning your mind, seeing your strength, it's changed something for me." He took her hand gently. "I know we said friends, and if that's all you want, I'll respect that. But Lila, I need you to know this isn't just friendship for me anymore. Somewhere between coffee and conversations and watching you dream again, I started falling for you." Lila's breath caught. "Ethan, I'll go as slow as you need," he continued quickly. "I know you're healing from Dylan. I know trust is hard. I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give. I just needed you to know where I stand, because I don't play games and I won't pretend this is something it's not." Lila looked up at him, this man who'd appeared in her life like some kind of miracle, who'd protected her without trying to own her, who'd supported her without making her feel weak, who'd seen her dreams and believed in them when she'd stopped believing in herself. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I know. What if I'm not ready? What if I mess this up?" "Then we figure it out together," Ethan said simply. "No pressure, no expectations, just 2 people learning each other." Lila made a decision. She stepped closer, her hand touching his face. "I'm falling too," she whispered. "I've been trying not to, but I can't help it. You make me feel safe and seen and like maybe I'm worth something after all." Ethan's hand covered hers. "You're worth everything." He leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. Lila didn't pull away. Their lips met gently, carefully. Nothing demanding or possessive, just soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. "Wow," Lila whispered. "Yeah," Ethan agreed, his voice rough. "Wow." They stood there for a long moment, foreheads touching, hands clasped. "What happens now?" Lila asked. "Now we take it one day at a time," Ethan said. "No rushing, no pressure, just us, figuring this out together." "I'd like that," Lila said. They stayed on the rooftop for another hour, talking and kissing and planning a future that suddenly felt possible. When Ethan finally drove Lila home, he walked her to her door like a gentleman. "Thank you for tonight," Lila said. "For the dinner, the conversation, the kiss, for all of it." "Thank you for saying yes," Ethan replied. "To coffee, to dinner, to taking a chance on this." He kissed her once more, soft and lingering. "I'll call you tomorrow." "Sleep well," Lila Hayes. "You too," Ethan Cole. Inside her apartment, Lila leaned against the closed door and smiled. For the first time in years, she felt genuinely happy, not just surviving but living, not just getting through days but looking forward to them. She was falling in love, and it felt completely different from what she'd experienced with Dylan. This was light and easy and safe. This was choice and respect and partnership. This was what love was supposed to feel like. Over the next month, Lila and Ethan grew closer. They went on real dates, movies and museums and quiet dinners. They texted throughout the day, sharing small moments and inside jokes. Ethan met Jenny properly and won her approval by remembering her birthday and sending flowers. Lila met Ethan's head of security, Marcus, who clearly cared about his boss and was protective of anyone Ethan cared about. They kept the relationship mostly private, not because they were hiding, but because they wanted to protect what they were building. Lila continued working at the diner while starting online classes in hospitality management. Ethan had been right. She'd qualified for his company's scholarship program after a formal application process. She was proving to herself that she was capable of more than Dylan had convinced her. Everything felt perfect, almost too perfect, which should have been Lila's first warning. One evening in late October, Lila was closing the diner with Jenny. It was just after 11, and they were wiping down tables and restocking supplies. "So when's the next fancy date with Mr. Wonderful?" Jenny asked with a grin. "Tomorrow," Lila said, unable to keep the smile off her face. "He's taking me to some gallery opening. Says I need more culture in my life." "Look at you," Jenny teased. "Dating a billionaire, taking college classes, glowing like someone who's actually happy. I'm so proud of you, Lila." "I'm proud of me too," Lila admitted. "I didn't think I could feel this way again. Light, free, like myself." They finished closing up and walked out to the parking lot together. Jenny's car was parked near the entrance, while Lila's was further back. "Text me when you get home safe," Jenny said, hugging her. "Always do," Lila replied. She walked to her car, keys in hand, humming slightly. She didn't see him until it was too late. Dylan stepped out from behind a truck, blocking her path to her car. Lila's heart stopped. He looked different, thinner, unkempt, with wild eyes that spoke of obsession and anger. "Hello, Lila." Lila took a step back, her hand reaching for her phone. "You're violating the restraining order, Dylan. Leave now, or I'm calling the police." "Call them," Dylan said, moving closer. "I don't care anymore. You ruined my life, got me served with legal papers, turned my friends against me with your lies, all because you couldn't handle a real relationship." "Stay back," Lila warned, pressing the emergency speed dial Ethan had set up on her phone weeks ago. Dylan laughed, and it was an ugly sound. Calling your rich boyfriend? Think he's going to save you? He's just using you, Lila. A project, a charity case. Once he gets bored, he'll throw you away just like I should have. You don't know anything about him, Lila said, her voice steadier than she felt. Or about me, not anymore. I know you belong to me, Dylan said, and suddenly he was right there, his hand gripping her wrist, just like that first night at the diner. But this time, his grip was bruising. This time, the rage in his eyes was barely controlled. You're mine, Lila. You'll always be mine. If I can't have you, no one will. Lila tried to pull away, but Dylan's other hand grabbed her shoulder. She opened her mouth to scream, but he covered it with his palm. Terror flooded through her. This was different from before. This wasn't control or manipulation. This was violence. Then, like that first night, a voice cut through the darkness. Let her go. But this time Ethan's voice wasn't calm. It was barely controlled fury. Dylan spun around, still holding Lila. Ethan stood 10 feet away, having appeared seemingly from nowhere. Marcus was beside him, phone in hand, already calling police. You, Dylan snarled. This is your fault. You took what was mine. She's not property, Ethan said, his voice deadly quiet. She's a person with choices, and she chose to leave you. Accept it. I don't accept anything, Dylan said. He pulled Lila closer, using her as a shield. You think your money makes you better than me? You think you can just take what's mine? Last warning, Ethan said, taking a step forward. Let her go, walk away, and maybe you only face restraining order violations. Keep holding her, and you're looking at assault and kidnapping charges. I don't care, Dylan shouted. I have nothing left. She took everything. In that moment, Lila saw her opportunity. Dylan was focused on Ethan, his grip slightly loosened by his rage. She remembered the self-defense class Jenny had convinced her to take last year. She stomped down hard on Dylan's instep, simultaneously throwing her elbow back into his ribs. Dylan's grip released in surprise and pain. Lila twisted away, running toward Ethan. Dylan lunged after her, but Marcus intercepted him. The security guard was trained and professional, restraining Dylan with efficient movements. Ethan caught Lila as she reached him, his arms coming around her. I've got you. You're safe. I've got you. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Police had been en route since Lila's emergency call. Dylan was still shouting threats, but Marcus had him secured. Lila was shaking violently, adrenaline and fear coursing through her. You came, she whispered against Ethan's chest. Always, Ethan said fiercely. I'll always come for you. The police arrived, taking statements and arresting Dylan for assault, violating the restraining order, and attempted kidnapping. An ambulance checked Lila over, minor bruising but otherwise physically fine. Emotionally was another story. By the time they were done with police statements, it was nearly 2 in the morning. Ethan drove Lila back to his penthouse, not even asking if that's where she wanted to go. Somehow she ended up in his arms on his couch, wrapped in a blanket, drinking tea she didn't remember him making. I thought he'd kill me, Lila said quietly. He had this look in his eyes, like he'd rather destroy me than let me go. Ethan's arms tightened around her. He's going to jail, Lila. The assault, the restraining order violation, the attempted kidnapping. He's looking at serious time. He won't be able to hurt you again. But what if he gets out? What if... Then we'll handle it, Ethan interrupted gently. Together. You're not alone in this, Lila. You never have to face him alone again. Lila turned to look at him. Why do you care so much? Really? I need to understand. Ethan cupped her face gently. Because somewhere between that first night at the diner and now, you became the most important person in my life. Because I'm in love with you, Lila Hayes, completely, irrevocably in love with you. Lila's breath caught. You love me. I love you, Ethan confirmed. Your strength, your kindness, your determination to rebuild yourself. The way you dream, the way you care about people, the way you fought back tonight even though you were terrified. I love all of it. Tears spilled down Lila's cheeks. I love you too. I've been afraid to say it, afraid it was too soon or I was confusing gratitude with love. But it's not gratitude, it's real. Ethan kissed her softly. Then we'll figure out the rest together. One day at a time. One day at a time, Lila echoed. She fell asleep in his arms that night, feeling safer than she'd ever felt. And for the first time since Dylan had appeared in her life years ago, Lila slept without nightmares. Lila woke in Ethan's bed, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. For a moment she was disoriented. Then she remembered. Dylan's attack, the arrest, Ethan's declaration of love, falling asleep in his arms. She sat up, finding herself alone in the massive bedroom wearing one of Ethan's t-shirts. She had vague memories of him helping her change last night, keeping his eyes averted, purely focused on her comfort. The smell of coffee and something sweet drifted from somewhere in the penthouse. Lila wrapped a robe she found on the chair and followed the scent. Ethan was in the kitchen, standing at the stove, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. He looked more relaxed than she'd ever seen him, more real. He turned as she entered, his expression softening with relief. "Hey, how did you sleep?" "Better than I expected," Lila admitted. "What are you making?" "French toast. My mom's recipe. I make it when I need comfort or when someone I care about needs it." He plated 2 pieces and brought them to the breakfast bar, gesturing for her to sit. "I called the diner, told Mr. Peterson you need a few days off. He completely understood and said your job will be waiting whenever you're ready." Lila took a bite of French toast and nearly moaned. It was perfect, crispy on the outside, soft inside, with just the right amount of cinnamon. "This is incredible." "Mum knew what she was doing," Ethan said with a small smile. "She said food was love made edible." They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Ethan set down his fork. "We need to talk about what happens next. With Dylan's arrest, with everything. You have options, Lila, but I want you to make choices based on what you need, not what you think I want or expect." Lila appreciated that he was giving her control. "What are my options?" "Dylan's being held on multiple charges: assault, stalking, violating a restraining order, attempted kidnapping. My lawyers spoke to the DA this morning. They're confident he'll face significant jail time, maybe 2 to 5 years. Relief flooded through Lila, followed quickly by guilt for feeling relieved. "You'll need to testify at his trial," Ethan continued gently. "Give a victim impact statement. I know that's hard, but it's part of the process. My lawyers will help you prepare, and I'll be there with you if you want me." "I want you there," Lila said immediately. "Then I'll be there," Ethan promised. "Beyond the legal stuff, you should think about therapy. Processing trauma isn't something you have to do alone." Lila had been thinking the same thing. "I don't know if I can afford a therapist." "My insurance covers you now," Ethan said carefully. "I added you as my domestic partner last week. It's completely legal and doesn't obligate you to anything, but it means you have access to the same health benefits I do, including mental health support." Lila's eyes widened. "You did that? Before last night?" "I did it the day after Dylan first showed up," Ethan admitted. "I wanted you to have resources available if you needed them. If you're uncomfortable with it, I can reverse it. But Lila, I meant what I said. You're the most important person in my life. Taking care of you isn't a burden, it's a privilege." Tears pricked at Lila's eyes. "No one's ever done something like that for me." "Then they were fools," Ethan said simply. Over the next few weeks, Lila began the hard work of healing. She started therapy with Dr. Sarah Chen, a specialist in trauma and abusive relationships. The sessions were difficult, forcing Lila to confront patterns she'd ignored and pain she'd buried. But slowly, she began to understand herself better. "You're not weak for staying," Dr. Chen explained during one session. "Abuse is designed to trap you. It erodes your sense of self until leaving feels impossible. The fact that you got out shows incredible strength." "I don't feel strong," Lila admitted. "I feel broken." "Broken things can be mended," Dr. Chen said gently. "And sometimes what we rebuild is stronger than what was there before." "You're not broken, Lila. You're healing. There's a difference." Ethan attended couples counseling sessions with Lila, learning her triggers and how to support her without being overbearing. He learned that sometimes she needed space to process emotions alone, that sudden movements or raised voices could send her into panic, that patience and consistency mattered more than grand gestures. "I'm afraid of messing this up," Ethan confessed during one session, "of not being what she needs, of my protection feeling like control." "The fact that you're worried about it means you won't," Dr. Chen assured him. "Control doesn't question itself. Love does. Keep communicating, keep asking, keep respecting her boundaries. That's how you build trust." Dylan's trial took place 3 months after his arrest. Lila sat in the courtroom, Ethan beside her, and gave her victim impact statement. Her voice shook, but she got through it. "For 2 years, Dylan Morrison convinced me I was worthless, that I couldn't survive without him, that I should be grateful he tolerated me. He isolated me from friends, crushed my dreams, and made me afraid of my own shadow." Lila looked directly at Dylan, who sat at the defendant's table looking smaller than she remembered. "But I did survive. I got out. I rebuilt my life. And I'm here today to say that his control over me is over. He doesn't get to define me anymore. I define myself." The courtroom was silent. The judge thanked Lila for her courage. Dylan was sentenced to 4 years in prison with a permanent restraining order upon release. Outside the courthouse, Lila collapsed into Ethan's arms. "It's really over," she whispered. "It's really over," Ethan confirmed. "You were incredible in there. So strong, so clear. I'm so proud of you." That evening, back at Ethan's penthouse where Lila had been staying more often than her own apartment, they celebrated quietly. Just dinner, wine, and the relief of a chapter finally closing. "I've been thinking," Lila said as they sat on the couch overlooking the city, "about what happens next. With us." Ethan's attention sharpened. "Okay." "I love you," Lila said. "I love you so much it scares me sometimes. But I need to make sure I'm choosing you for the right reasons. Not because you saved me, or because I'm grateful, or because I'm afraid to be alone." "I understand," Ethan said, though she could see the worry in his eyes. "I think I need to move back to my apartment for a while," Lila continued. "Not because I want distance, but because I need to prove to myself that I can stand on my own, that I'm whole without you, even though I want you in my life." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "That makes sense, and I respect it. But Lila, you don't have to prove anything to me. I already know you can stand on your own. You've been doing it since before we met." "I need to prove it to myself," Lila clarified. "Then do what you need to do," Ethan said. "I'll be here when you're ready. No pressure, no expectations, just love and support." Lila moved back to her apartment the next week. It was harder than she expected, sleeping alone after months of Ethan's steady presence. But it was also empowering. She paid her own bills, managed her own space, continued her classes and therapy. She proved to herself that she was capable, that she didn't need Ethan. She wanted him. There was a difference. They still saw each other regularly, dates, phone calls, text messages throughout the day. But Lila was learning to be whole on her own, to be Lila Hayes, complete unto herself, who chose to share her life with Ethan Cole. 6 months after Dylan's sentencing, Lila completed her first year of hospitality management courses. She'd maintained a perfect GPA while working part-time at the diner and interning at one of Ethan's hotels. The internship had been her idea, applied for through normal channels. She'd been accepted on her own merit, with Ethan carefully recusing himself from the hiring process to avoid any appearance of favoritism. "I'm so proud of you," Jenny said at Lila's small celebration dinner. "Look at you. College student, hotel intern, completely healed and thriving. You're like a whole different person from that scared girl who grabbed a stranger's hand 9 months ago." "I'm not different," Lila corrected with a smile. "I'm just more myself, more who I was always supposed to be." Ethan raised his glass. "To Lila, the strongest person I know. Thank you for letting us be part of your journey." "To Lila," everyone echoed. Later that night, Ethan drove Lila back to her apartment. At her door, he pulled out an envelope. "I have something for you, but I want you to know this isn't charity or a gift with strings. This is recognition of your talent and hard work." Lila opened the envelope. Inside was a letter on official company letterhead. Dear Ms. Hayes, we are pleased to offer you a position as Assistant Events Coordinator at Cole Luxury Hotels, effective immediately. Lila's hands shook as she read the salary, more than double what she made at the diner. Ethan, I can't accept special treatment. You're not, Ethan interrupted. This offer went through our normal hiring process. My events director chose you from a pool of applicants based on your internship performance and qualifications. I didn't interfere, except to recuse myself from the final decision. He touched her face gently. You earned this, Lila. Your work at the hotel has been exceptional. This is your merit, not my influence. Lila threw her arms around him. Thank you for believing in me, for pushing me to believe in myself. Always, Ethan murmured into her hair. Lila started her new position 2 weeks later. She excelled at coordinating events, bringing creativity and attention to detail that impressed even the most demanding clients. Within 3 months, she'd organized 2 major corporate events and a celebrity wedding that received rave reviews. Her boss, Catherine, pulled her aside one day. Lila, you're a natural at this. Have you considered moving up to senior coordinator? We have an opening, and I'd like to recommend you. I've only been in this position 3 months, Lila protested, and you've done the work of someone with 3 years' experience, Catherine countered. Don't undersell yourself. Take credit for your accomplishments. Lila was learning to do just that, to own her success instead of attributing it to luck or others' generosity. She was good at this work. She deserved the recognition. 1 year after that first night at the diner, Ethan took Lila back to where it all began. The same booth where she'd grabbed his hand in desperation. Mr. Peterson greeted them warmly, Jenny serving them with a knowing smile. This feels like coming full circle, Lila said, looking around the familiar space. It is, Ethan agreed. This is where everything changed, where I met the woman who would transform my entire life. I think I'm the one whose life got transformed, Lila pointed out. We transformed each other, Ethan said. You showed me what real connection looks like, what it means to love someone without trying to own them, what partnership actually means. He reached across the table and took her hand, the same gesture she'd done a year ago, but now from a place of choice, not desperation. Lila Hayes, this past year with you has been the best year of my life. Watching you heal, grow, and become even more yourself has been an honor. You're brilliant, talented, strong, and kind. You make me want to be better. You make me believe in love again. Ethan stood up and moved to kneel beside the booth. Lila's breath caught. Oh my God. I'm not asking you to complete me, Ethan continued, pulling a small box from his pocket. You're not my other half or my missing piece. You're whole, and I'm whole. And together we're something even more beautiful. I'm asking if you'll choose to build a life with me, to be partners in everything, to love each other through the complicated and the simple and everything in between. He opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring. Lila Hayes, will you marry me? Lila was crying, but she was also smiling. Yes, yes, absolutely yes. Ethan slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss. The diner erupted in applause. Mr. Peterson was wiping his eyes. Jenny was openly crying. Even customers Lila didn't know were clapping and cheering. I love you, Lila said against Ethan's lips. Not because you saved me, but because you saw me, really saw me, and you let me save myself while standing beside me. I love you too, Ethan said, for your courage, your kindness, your determination, for being exactly who you are. 6 months later, they married in a small ceremony at Ethan's hotel. Lila wore a simple white dress that made her feel beautiful without trying to be someone she wasn't. Ethan cried when he saw her walk down the aisle. Dr. Chen attended, proud of her patient's journey. Jenny was maid of honor, clutching tissues and crying happy tears. Marcus stood as Ethan's best man, having watched his boss transform from a workaholic loner to a man deeply in love. Lila's vows were simple and honest. Ethan, 1.5 years ago, I grabbed your hand in desperation. I was drowning, and I needed someone to pull me up. But you did something better. You taught me how to swim. You didn't rescue me. You empowered me to rescue myself. You showed me what love should look like, patient, respectful, supportive. You never tried to control me or own me. You just loved me and let me be myself." She wiped her eyes. "Today, I'm not grabbing your hand in desperation. I'm taking your hand in choice, in love, in partnership. I choose you, Ethan Cole, not because I need you, but because I want you. There's a difference, and it matters." Ethan's vows were equally emotional. "Lila, you taught me that love isn't about possession. It's about appreciation. You taught me that strength isn't control. It's trust. That the best relationships are built by two whole people choosing each other, not two broken pieces trying to complete each other." He squeezed her hands. "You changed my life in the best possible way. You made me believe in real connection. You made me understand that success means nothing without someone to share it with. You made me whole in ways I didn't know I was incomplete. I promise to always see you, to always respect your autonomy, to always be your partner, never your owner. I love you, Lila Hayes. Thank you for choosing me." When they were pronounced husband and wife, the room erupted in celebration. Their first dance was to a song about new beginnings and second chances. "Happy?" Ethan asked as they swayed together. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Lila confirmed. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life, that I get to be married to you, that I have a career I love, that I'm free and whole and myself." "Believe it," Ethan said. "You earned every bit of this. You fought for it, worked for it, healed for it. This is your life because you made it happen." 2 years into their marriage, Lila was promoted to director of events. She'd built a reputation in the industry for innovative concepts and flawless execution. Brides and corporations specifically requested her for high-profile events. She'd also finished her degree in hospitality management, graduating at the top of her class. Ethan had been in the audience, cheering louder than anyone when she walked across the stage. "I'm so proud of you," he'd said afterward, hugging her tight. "You did this all yourself." "Not all myself," Lila corrected. "I had support, your belief in me, Dr. Chen's guidance, Jenny's friendship. Success isn't solo, it's built on a foundation of people who care." "Fair point," Ethan conceded. "But the hard work, the dedication, the talent, that was all you." One evening, 3 years after that first night at the diner, Lila and Ethan hosted a dinner at their home. They'd bought a house together. Not too big, not too ostentatious, just a comfortable space that felt like them. Dr. Chen was there, along with Jenny and her new boyfriend, Marcus and his wife, and several colleagues who'd become friends. After dinner, Ethan clinked his glass for attention. "I want to make an announcement. Lila and I have been working on something for the past 6 months, and it's finally ready to share." Lila stood beside him, smiling. "We're launching a new foundation," Ethan continued. "The Hayes Cole Foundation for Survivors. It will provide resources for people leaving abusive relationships, legal support, therapy, job training, housing assistance. Everything we wish had been available when Lila was going through her situation." Lila picked up the explanation. "We know how hard it is to leave. How many barriers exist. We want to remove those barriers, give people options and support so they can rebuild their lives with dignity." "This is Lila's vision," Ethan said proudly. "Her idea, her passion project. I'm just providing resources to make it happen." "It's our project," Lila corrected. "Partnership, remember?" Dr. Chen raised her glass. "This is incredible. You're going to change so many lives." "That's the goal," Lila said. "To be the help I needed when I was drowning. To be the hand that teaches people to swim, not just pulls them temporarily to shore." The foundation launched 3 months later. Within the first year, they'd helped 73 people leave abusive situations and start new lives. Lila volunteered her time alongside professional staff, sharing her story and offering hope. "If I can go from a terrified waitress grabbing a stranger's hand to running this foundation, you can do anything," she told a group of survivors at their first support meeting. "Your past doesn't define your future. Your abuser doesn't get to write your story. You do." One woman approached Lila afterward. "Thank you for being honest about how hard it is, for showing us that healing is possible. It is possible, Lila assured her. It's not easy, and it's not linear, but it's worth it. You're worth it. 4 years after that desperate moment in the diner, Lila stood in front of a mirror adjusting her dress. She was being honored at a hospitality industry gala for her event work and her foundation's impact. Ethan came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You look beautiful." "I look nervous," Lila corrected. "I don't love being the center of attention." "Then think of it as representing all the survivors who couldn't be there," Ethan suggested. "You're accepting this award for them too." At the gala, Lila accepted her award with grace. 4 years ago, I was a waitress working paycheck to paycheck, trapped by fear and control. Today, I'm standing here as a director, a wife, a survivor, and hopefully an inspiration, not because I'm special, but because I made a choice. I chose to ask for help. I chose to believe I deserved better. I chose to do the hard work of healing. She looked out at the audience. If you're in a situation that makes you feel small, trapped, or worthless, know that you deserve better. Know that asking for help is courage, not weakness. Know that your story isn't over. It's just beginning. The applause was thunderous. After the gala, Ethan and Lila walked through the hotel gardens. Different gardens than their first kiss, but equally beautiful. "Do you ever think about that night?" Lila asked. "The diner?" "Every day," Ethan admitted. "I think about how close I came to not stopping there for dinner, how easily I could have missed meeting you." "Fate," Lila said, "or luck, or divine intervention. Whatever it was, I'm grateful." "Me too," Ethan said. "You changed my life, Lila. You taught me what really matters, what real love looks like." Lila leaned into him. "We changed each other. That's what love does. It transforms both people, makes them better, stronger, more themselves." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. "I have something to tell you," Lila said eventually. Ethan pulled back to look at her. "Good something or bad something?" "Good something," Lila said, smiling. "Great something, actually. I'm pregnant." Ethan's face went through several emotions at once: shock, joy, wonder, love. We're... Really?" "Really," Lila confirmed. "I found out yesterday. Wanted to tell you somewhere special." Ethan picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing. "We're having a baby. We're going to be parents." "We are," Lila said. "Are you ready?" "With you?" Ethan set her down gently. "I'm ready for anything." 7 months later, Lila gave birth to a daughter they named Hope. It was fitting. Hope was what had saved Lila that night in the diner. Hope was what had carried her through healing. Hope was what she and Ethan built their foundation on. And now Hope was the tiny person sleeping in her arms, representing new beginnings and infinite possibilities. "She's perfect," Ethan whispered, stroking their daughter's cheek, "like her mother." "She's going to be strong," Lila said, "and kind. And she'll know she's loved unconditionally. She'll never doubt her worth." "Never," Ethan agreed. As Lila looked at her daughter, her husband, their life together, she thought about that terrified woman who'd grabbed a stranger's hand 4.5 years ago. That woman had been desperate, trapped, convinced she had no options. She'd made a choice in that moment: to ask for help, to trust a stranger, to believe she deserved better. And that choice had led to this: to healing, growth, love, family, purpose, to a life beyond anything she dared to dream. "Thank you," Lila whispered to Ethan. "For what?" "For being exactly who you are, for seeing me when I felt invisible, for walking beside me instead of trying to carry me, for being my partner in everything." Ethan kissed her forehead. "Thank you for grabbing my hand that night, for trusting me, for doing the hard work of healing, for choosing me every day, for building this beautiful life with me." "I'd grab your hand 1,000 times over," Lila said, "in desperation, in love, in choice, always." 5 years later, Lila stood at a podium addressing a room full of hospitality students. She'd been invited to speak at her alma mater about her career journey, Hope sat in the audience next to Ethan, 5 years old and fascinated by everything. "My path to this industry wasn't traditional," Lila told the students. "I started as a waitress in a diner. I had no degree, no connections, no resources. What I had was determination, a willingness to work hard, and the courage to ask for help when I needed it." She shared her story, not all the painful details, but enough to be honest, about leaving an abusive relationship, about rebuilding from nothing, about finding mentors and support, about proving to herself that she was capable. The hospitality industry is about creating experiences that make people feel valued, Lila said. But you can't make others feel valued if you don't value yourself. You can't create welcoming spaces if you don't believe you deserve to be welcomed. So my advice to you is this: know your worth, demand respect, never accept treatment that makes you feel small, and when you succeed, and you will succeed, remember to be the help that someone else needs. After her speech, several students approached with questions. One young woman hung back until the others left. "Ms. Hayes Cole, can I talk to you privately?" "Of course," Lila said. They moved to a quiet corner. The young woman's hands were shaking. "I'm in a situation. My boyfriend, he's not physically abusive, but he controls everything. Where I go, who I talk to, what I study. My friends say I should leave, but I don't know how. I don't have money or family nearby, and I'm scared." Lila's heart ached with recognition. She pulled out a card, the Hayes Cole Foundation. "Call this number. We have resources, legal help, counseling, housing assistance, job placement, everything you need to leave safely and rebuild." The young woman took the card with trembling hands. "Does it get better after you leave?" "It gets better," Lila promised. "It's hard, and it takes time, but it gets so much better. You deserve better, and you're stronger than you know." Tears streamed down the young woman's face. "Thank you for understanding, for not judging." "I was you 5 years ago," Lila said gently. "I know exactly what you're feeling, and I'm telling you, on the other side of this fear is a life you can't even imagine yet. A life where you're free and whole in yourself. It's worth the fight." After the young woman left, Ethan approached with hope. "You okay?" he asked, reading her expression. "Yeah," Lila said, "just remembering who I used to be, and grateful for who I am now." She picked up Hope, who immediately started chattering about the big school and all the people watching Mummy talk. "You were amazing up there," Ethan said, "so confident and inspiring." "I was terrified," Lila admitted, "but I've learned that you can be scared and brave at the same time. That's kind of the definition of courage." They walked to their car, Hope between them, holding both their hands. As they drove home, Lila reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From that desperate grab of a stranger's hand to this moment, married, mother, successful, healed. It hadn't been easy. Healing never is. But it had been worth it. Every therapy session, every difficult conversation, every moment of choosing courage over fear. All of it had led to this, to a life built on choice, not desperation, on love, not control, on partnership, not possession. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asked, glancing over at her. "How far we've come," Lila said. "How grateful I am for every twist and turn that led us here. Even the painful parts?" "Especially the painful parts," Lila said. "They taught me who I am. They showed me what I'm capable of. They led me to you." Ethan reached over and took her hand, a gesture they'd repeated thousands of times, but it still felt significant. "I love you, Lila Hayes Cole." "I love you too, Ethan Cole Hayes." They'd hyphenated both their names, equal partnership in everything. That night, after Hope was asleep, Lila and Ethan sat on their porch, watching the stars. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't been at that diner that night?" Ethan asked. "Sometimes," Lila admitted, "but I think I still would have found my way out eventually. Maybe it would have taken longer, been harder, but I was already ready to leave. You didn't save me, Ethan. You just helped me save myself. That's all I ever wanted to do," Ethan said. "If this story touched your heart, we'd love to hear from you. Tell us, have you ever had a moment that changed your entire life? Share your story below." Thank you for being part of Lila and Ethan's journey from that desperate moment to this beautiful life. Remember these truths. You are worthy of love that empowers, not controls. You are worthy of respect, always. Asking for help is courage, not weakness. Healing is possible, even when it feels impossible. Your past doesn't define your future, you do. Love should make you more yourself, not less. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is reach out your hand and ask for help. Subscribe for more stories that remind us what really matters: courage, healing, real love, and second chances. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their story isn't over. It's just beginning. Until next time, remember, you are stronger than you know. You are worthy of better. And you deserve a love that sees you, respects you, and empowers you to be exactly who you're meant to be. Your hand grab moment is waiting. Have the courage to reach for it.